New year, new sketchbook. In today's video, I'm sharing my 5 favorite tips on how to start a new sketchbook. If you're new around here, my name is Keiko. I'm a watercolor paint maker and artist based in Hawaii. In part 1, I'll share first page sketchbook tips and show you example of my own first pages of a few of my sketchbooks. In part 2, I'll demonstrate how I start this new sketchbook. The first question I encourage you to ask yourself is, will your sketchbook be themed or random? Random meaning, are you going to use it for everyday doodles, kind of like draw whatever comes to mind, or will you dedicate your sketchbook to a specific theme? This could be something like native birds, tropical plants, or maybe you want to participate in a 30-day challenge. So, my tip number 1 is define the intention of your sketchbook, themed or random, and take it from there. No matter which one you choose, tip number 2 applies to both. Narrow it down. I personally find that setting at least a few limitations can be very helpful in starting and maintaining a sketchbook. How about defining a few tools and/or supplies you'll use for that sketchbook? Maybe you'll mainly focus on drawing with pencil or marker or a combo of brush pens and colored pencils. This doesn't mean you can't use other materials, but choosing a few tools that you'll use throughout the sketchbook brings me to a lovely idea for the first page. Draw your favorite tools of the trade, for example, pencils, brushes, watercolors, you name it. Another idea, if you'd like to keep it more free and general, you could simply write the date of starting the sketchbook and, once it's full, add the end date as well. A little confession at this point, I often leave the first page or even pages blank. Start with page 2 and much later, when I'm already halfway through the sketchbook, I come back and fill in the first page. I have also started a few sketchbooks at the very end, just putting down some swatches on the last page. One of my favorite and super quick things to do is to add a sticker with the artwork of an artist that I like onto the first page. Oftentimes, I find that the simple physical act of just putting something on that first page or even the last page can help overcome the hesitation to start. And finally, and I want to call this tip 3 as it can really change the approach of starting a sketchbook. Start with the background. Now, this probably works best for mixed media sketchbooks, which is what I mostly do. Like in this example here, where I wanted to learn the Hawaiian names for colors and painted all the background colors first before adding the lettering and motif. Same here in this book themed around plants. It almost felt as if I had half the job done already, just blocking in colors for the background. All these ideas that I've just mentioned, from tools of the trade, leaving the first page blank, starting with the last page, and blocking in the background, work for both themed and random sketchbooks. However, for the themed sketchbooks, I have a few more tips and ideas for you. I often set very specific limitations for my themed sketchbooks and even prepare a toolbox with the materials that I intend to use in that sketchbook. Which brings me to tip number 4, limited color palette and limited tools. Work with just a few colors. On the first page, create a swatch chart or even just some wild color strokes. Write down the names of the colors and the tools that you intend to use. Tip number 5, participate in a challenge. After years of keeping and filling sketchbooks, challenges are my favorite way to tackle a new sketchbook. I might dedicate a whole sketchbook to a challenge or just part of a sketchbook, as I did here with Bird Tobar. On the first page, you can write down the title, the prompts, and the date you're starting. Add color swatches or materials and supply swatches. My most valued tip, and the one that I constantly have to remind myself of as well, just start. Lower your expectations about your sketchbook work. It doesn't have to be a coffee table-worthy gorgeous book when it's done. A sketchbook should be a safe haven that you enjoy coming back to, a place to experiment, and something just for yourself. And considering that, don't try to make page 1 super extra special. If you do that, then automatically you feel the need to make every consecutive page extra super special as well. I often find myself just scribbling a few words on page 1, often just with pencil or sticking down some quick washi tape, rather than creating an elaborate title page. Alright, let's recap. Tip number 1. Define the intention of your sketchbook, themed or random. Tip number 2. Narrow it down. Set a few limitations for your sketchbook even if you want to keep it random. Tip 3. Start with a background and block in color on a few pages before you start with the actual drawing. Tip number 4. Limited color palette and limited tools. Make swatches and write down what you'll use on page 1. Tip number 5. Participate in a challenge. List the title, prompts, and date on the first couple of pages of your sketchbook. And bonus tip, just start. Lower your expectations about your sketchbook work and use it as a safe space to explore and play. And now, welcome to part 2. A few months ago, I participated in Birdtober, an alternative challenge to the famous Inktober on Instagram. I absolutely loved Birdtober and drawing 31 birds for a month. When I came across a challenge called Burbfest on Instagram, I felt drawn to it right away. And after finishing this sketchbook, I got another one just like it, only with a different motif on the cover. To prep for the challenge and to make things easier for myself, I looked up all 31 birds online and took screenshots so that I'll have an overview for the month. This also allowed me to choose my color palette, looking at colors that most of the birds have in common, and also reaching for colors that I regularly use in my artwork, such as pink, teal, and lime green. I give myself lots of artistic freedom and don't feel the pressure to depict the birds exactly as they are, especially not when it comes to their colors. My idea for the first page was to draw a little bird in a very simplistic way and a speech bubble with the words Burbfest. Then some swatches of the brush pens and colored pencils that I'll use, and the date. Then, and because it's already January 2nd when I'm recording this, I'm drawing the first 2 birds of the challenge. I'll speed this part up and put some music on. I hope you found these tips helpful. If you have ideas to share, please let us know down below in the comments. I'll see you in the next video where I'll share how to paint a floral pattern like this and share my creative intentions for this year. Until then, happy creating and aloha! Just keep bumping in my hat. It's big.